and that is it. For real. That batch lasts me a full week and then some, and I eat it every day. This whole recipe costs me maybe $1.50 for each batch, and that's a stretch. You really cannot beat that. A bag of granola with all good ingredients at the grocery store is going to cost you $7 to $10. So steal this one from me instead. Do you struggle to stay consistent with healthy eating and just want food decisions to be easy, guilt-free, and sustainable? You're in the right place. I'm Chelsea, nutritionist and fitness coach who overcame restrictive yo-yo dieting and body image insecurities using simple nutrition tools, all backed by biblical principles. And now I help women like you find that same freedom with food so you can feel confident in the look and health of your body for decades to come. I'm ready to dive in with you. So open your notes app and let's go. Have you signed up for the weekly harvest yet? That's my weekly e-newsletter where I send you things like simple but healthy recipes, how to use food as medicine, what the Bible says about nutrition, and so much more. If you're not on my list yet, head to coachrain.com and you can actually just click the link for my newsletter right on the homepage. I promise I will never send you spam, only things that I think you'll actually be interested in and find valuable, especially if you like this podcast. Again, that's coachreign.com to start getting my value-packed emails. And now, welcome to Nutrition for Christian Women. Foods you should never buy again. Now, while I do have a laundry list of food-like products you should never buy again, this episode is more focused on 3 foods never to buy again because they are so stinking easy to make from scratch yourself. And I'm not talking like, yeah, it's super simple. You just have to temper the eggs, caramelize this, proof that at this temperature. No. I'm talking actually super simple, minimal ingredients, 1 or 2 steps. I have made all of these things that I'm going to walk you through with a baby on my hip, trying to grab every ingredient and utensil in the process, and still got it done with minimal time and minimal cleanup. The reason I started making these things myself is because the quality ingredient versions of them at the store are just stupid expensive, but I'm also not willing to compromise on things like seed oils, especially while I was pregnant and now while I'm breastfeeding. It's one thing to, let it slide when it's just my own body, but when it comes to the health of my child, I am next level intentional about everything she and I eat. Let's get started with the one that I make every single week. That is not an exaggeration. It's like clockwork. I have a yogurt bowl every night for my little nightcap dessert / me time, and I top it with homemade granola. I actually have a variation of this in my digital recipe book, which you can download once you sign up to receive my e-newsletter called The Weekly Harvest. I'll actually just send you the link to it directly via email. But my nutrition clients say that this recipe is like crack because it is so addictingly good. Here is what you're going to need. 1.5 cups of old-fashioned oats, 1/2 cup of assorted seeds and nuts. I use sunflower and pumpkin seeds to support my hormones, and then a few sliced almonds for a little extra crunch, but really whatever your heart's desire is in this mix. You'll need 1/4 cup of avocado oil or whatever cooking fat you desire. I just use avocado oil here because it's flavorless. And then you'll need between 1/8 cup and 1/4 cup of pure maple syrup. Honestly, I never measure this, so that's just my best estimate from eyeballing it, between 1/8 and 1/4 cup. And then around a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Again, that's an estimate. I never measure it. You can totally adjust that one based on your palate and what you like. So we've essentially have 4 ingredients. First, you'll want to combine the oil and maple syrup in a bowl and whisk it until they come together into a creamier texture. And then add all the oats and seeds mixture into the bowl. Stir it all around to combine and coat all the dry ingredients with the wet ones. And then spread it out on a parchment paper lined baking sheet. You can leave clumps if you like clumpy granola, or spread them out into a thin layer if you prefer that. Then you're going to bake at 275 Fahrenheit for about an hour. This needs to be low and slow or they will burn. But toast them until they start to get golden. And then remember, they do continue to cook a bit even after you take them out of the oven. So don't wait for them to get super dark before you pull them out of the oven. But then once they're out, wait for them to fully cool before taking them off the pan and storing them in a glass jar just at room temperature. I just keep them on the counter. And that is it. For real. That batch lasts me a full week and then some, and I eat it every day. This whole recipe costs me maybe $1.50 for each batch, and that's a stretch. You really cannot beat that. A bag of granola with all good ingredients at the grocery store is going to cost you $7 to $10. So steal this one from me instead. All right, the next food that you should never buy again because it is so easy to make yourself is mayo. Golly, almost every single mayonnaise on the shelf of the store is made with sunflower, safflower, or canola oil. Those are 3 of the hateful 8 seed oils. And then the ones that are made exclusively with avocado oil are like $12 a jar, and the jars are super small. When I was pregnant, one of the only things that I could eat that didn't make me sick was chicken salad. But again, I didn't want to be consuming a bunch of pro-inflammatory seed oils while growing my baby from the food that I consume. So I started to make my own mayo, and frankly, I am not going back. Here's how to do it. You can use either a food processor or an immersion blender in a tall cup that it can fit into. Here's the ingredients that you will need. 1 whole egg, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, a splash of lemon juice, and a pinch of salt. And then, if you are using an immersion blender, slowly pour half a cup of avocado oil into the cup, letting it run down the side of the cup. We want that oil to sit on top of the egg and not mix all together right away. If you're using a food processor, you'll actually just pour that oil in as the processor is running. Again, very slowly, but then blend all the ingredients, and in a couple of minutes, you will have a creamy mayonnaise. You can also make a garlic aioli or a chipotle mayo. Mix in whatever you want as your heart desires. It actually shocks me how easy it is to make mayo versus how much it costs to have quality ingredient mayonnaise. Like, the profit margins are massive on this one. But you can have a jar of avocado mayo for less than $5 with this recipe. And then the third food that I'm going to mention in this episode that you should never buy again because it is so easy to make yourself is sauerkraut. I first made sauerkraut, over a decade ago when I was really diving into my personal journey with nutrition. I wanted to heal my leaky gut, which I suspected was the reason for my adult acne that was horribly painful and made me super self-conscious. And the probiotics that naturally occur in fermented foods like sauerkraut are exceptional for feeding the good bugs in your gut, thus promoting healing. So I gave it a whirl, and now I cannot imagine buying it again. All you need is a glass jar with a lid, 1 head of organic cabbage, maybe less depending on the size of your jar. And this is important, I say organic here because the fermentation process breaks down the fibers of the cabbage leaves, releasing any chemicals that may have been trapped inside if it is not organic. And we do not want to be ingesting that stuff. So make sure you get organic cabbage for this. And then 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt. And I mean kosher salt, sea salt, mineral salt, just not table salt. We don't want iodized salt. Okay, you ready? This is all you need to do. Cut the cabbage leaves into shreds, think like sauerkraut, add them to a bowl with the salt, and then massage the leaves with the salt for a few minutes to release the water, which will become the brine for your kraut. You may need to let it rest and then massage it again, but once you have enough water, add the cabbage and brine into the jar, pressing down firmly to make sure that all the cabbage is submerged. Anything that's left above the waterline will actually mold and then ruin the batch. So make sure it's fully covered, and then cover the jar loosely with the lid. Let it sit on the counter for a week, burping it daily. So you'll just unscrew a little bit, let the gases out, and then re-screw it on. And then check to make sure that the leaves are still submerged. After a week, do a little taste test, and you can either store it in the fridge if you like how it tastes, or you can let it sit for a few days longer, just depending on how tangy you like your sauerkraut. Literally 2 ingredients. If you are buying sauerkraut from the grocery store and it has more than those 2 ingredients, you are buying a bunch of preservatives that are unnecessary. The hardest part about this recipe is the waiting. And I personally like to use purple cabbage because I think it's just more fun to have purple vegetables as opposed to the green and white ones. But that's just me. They taste exactly the same in my opinion. Now, I actually have so many more of these, but I will save them for future episodes. I do share quite a few recipes in my weekly emails. So if you haven't already subscribed to receive those, head to coachrain.com and sign up for my newsletter, The Weekly Harvest, right there on the homepage. I'll send you recipes, how to use food as medicine, and some more insight about what the Bible says about nutrition. Again, that's coachreign.com to sign up for the Weekly Harvest newsletter. Now, go make one of these recipes and then shoot me an email. I would love to hear how it went. Until next time, friend, toodles. I pray this episode was helpful to you, my friend. If so, could you do me a massive favor and take 30 seconds to write a review? This is the best way to bless me big and help more people learn just how simple eating healthy consistently can be. And if you want more value-packed info from me, head to coachrain.com and sign up for the Weekly Harvest, my weekly emails filled with recipes, how to use food as medicine, biblical nutrition, and more. That's coachreign.com for all the goods. Blessings until next time, sis. Toodles.